All right, I'd like to call the February 27th, 2024 PIEA meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody and also want to welcome our commissioners and thank you for your volunteer effort to promote real estate in the city of St. Louis and all our actions we plan on taking today. Do I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anderson, not present. Commissioner Koenig,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Present.
Commissioner McBride,
Present.
and Chair Spencer.
Present.
You have a quorum with 4 present and 1 absent.
Okay, the meeting requests have been moved and seconded. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 29th, 2023 meeting?
So moved. Second, McBride.
Approval requests have been properly moved and seconded. Are there any discussions about the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McBride,
Aye.
and Chair Spencer.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is resolution number 24 PIEA 496. And I'm going to hand this over to David for a little background on moving to an executive closed session.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners and Chair Spencer. I don't know if you can hear me or if I need to aim that way or aim that way. Aim up. So this is a resolution authorizing the subordination of PIA's loan to that loan has been made to North Riverfront Broadway Investors LLC. It is in the former empowerment zone. This is a item that has been before you many times over the years. I think this is probably the 10th resolution that I presented in the series related to this forgivable loan, which was initiated back in 2008 and has been forgiven now at this point. 3/4 of it has actually been forgiven as milestones have been met. We're hopeful that this will be the final milestone. The history behind this is that PIA has had collateral in the form of real estate associated with this loan. The collateral along the way has actually already been relocated once and then was subordinated in order to encourage development to a lender. At this time, we've been approached by North Riverfront Broadway Investors to shift the role, the subordinate role from the current lender to a different entity that is planning on purchasing the site and developing it. So from PIA's perspective, PIA would remain in the same position that it has been in for many years, which is subordinate to a lender that would be associated with the development of the site. The expectation as we would go through this process is that we would work jointly with the new entity to create the subordinate arrangement. We would have documentation provided and would not actually enter into a subordination agreement until there is a closing, at which point we would have all of our due diligence completed and would enter into the documentation. And it would be reported simultaneously to maintain our existing situation based on the amount and the role that we have in the subordinate situation we are in. I will, as far as the deal itself goes, I believe Rob Orr is present electronically, and Phil Hulse, who's representing North Riverfront Broadway Investors, is also present and can discuss the transaction. To the extent that the transaction itself is still being negotiated, I would recommend that we go into closed session to discuss that. But the subordination itself and the vote on this item should take place in open session, not a basis to closed session.
Okay. So Rob, do you want to take over from here?
Yeah, I can provide a little bit more of a background on this. So the Empowerment Zone was a HUD program that was created by in 1993 by federal legislation. I believe it was around 1998. All of this precedes both David and my time here at St. Louis Development Corporation. I believe that SLDC was awarded some funds through the Empowerment Zone, which is a program to use to spur development in historically underserved and blighted communities. As 2008 was approaching, I believe that our deadline for the use of the funds was expiring. And so we were looking for an appropriate place to deploy those funds to meet the objectives of the Empowerment Zone and the reason for the funds being provided to PIEA. Along the same time, there was talk that goes back, many years regarding the construction of the new Mississippi River Bridge. And during that conversation, when the bridge was being contemplated, it was anticipated that several businesses, good businesses in the city, would have to be relocated for the construction of that bridge. And a study was completed by URS. I believe it was completed around 2003 that dealt specifically with the redevelopment of the North Riverfront Business Corridor, but more specifically, the potential for the need to find new sites for those businesses that would be impacted by the new bridge. So along the way, it was decided that a new business campus, which was identified in the URS study that was called the Adelaide I-70 Business Campus, would be a location that PIA could concentrate its efforts to acquire residential properties, most of which were disconnected from neighborhoods because of the Interstate 70 being built, a lot of vacant properties, a lot of businesses, or a few businesses, very few active and successful businesses. PIA acquired those properties, created the campus that later Love's Travel Center has located on a portion of that property. So in working with the Empowerment Zone, St. Louis, I think it was called the Greater St. Louis Empowerment Zone, we were able to reach an agreement that allowed us to move the remaining funds that we were provided from that source into a forgivable loan program that would spur this development of this Adelaide I-70 business campus. As many of you recall, along 2008, the real estate market took a big plummet nationally, but very much so locally as well. There was not a lot of industrial development happening. There were very few conversations taking place during that time. Phil and his partners at that time were doing a lot of work in the North Riverfront Business Corridor. They replied to an RFP seeking the development rights to work in this area. And as a result of that, they were the only respondent. We decided PIA and authorized the transfer of this loan, which was always intended to be forgivable, to Green Street to help them assemble and facilitate the development of this Adelaide Business Campus. And we also imposed 3 milestones and targets that had to be met in order for that loan to be forgiven. Initially, it was 600,000 square feet of building construction, I believe 50 acres of site control, and 300 jobs. Due to the economy and changes of time, those numbers have been modified a little bit over the years, but Green Street has satisfied the acreage requirement, a little more than half of the way on the jobs requirement, and on the total construction, which I think has been reduced to 375,000 square feet. Green Street, North Broadway Investors, rather, has a potential user for this site. We are very excited about it. It's a great opportunity. And upon successful development of that end user's new facility, they would meet all of the targets. So we are not seeking to forgive the loan today. That would be a request following the completion of that development, should it occur. And I may have a few dates mixed up, but Phil's on the line to also answer any questions. And I know David was involved throughout most of this process. So happy to answer any questions about the background.
Before we move on to Mr. Hulse, are there any questions from the commissioners for Rob or David?
Not at this time.
I had a good different view here. So I guess maybe one of the questions that I would have on the goals and the target, if we're subordinating our loan so we can make a transaction with another party, are those jobs that would be created subsequently be attributed to Green Street because they are bringing that deal to fruition? Maybe Rob, you could give us a little more background on that. And also, I know you mentioned that the additional jobs would meet the goals of the original agreement back in 2008. I just wanted to get a little more detail around how many jobs, and if it doesn't meet it, are there other assets from that original agreement that could be used in order to meet those goals and ultimately forgive the loan?
I'm having some technical difficulties here. Hang on me. I'm trying to. The
Robin?
answer regarding Green Street credited with the new jobs and the new investment, the answer to that is yes. They were required to cause the development to happen, but for their efforts, it would not have happened. Regarding the jobs and the creation numbers, I know Phil is aware of what those were. It's the Love's Travel Center, it's the North or Hall Street development, it's the Raven and Gedeke development. There may be one more. Phil, while I look for my email, do you want to address that?
Yeah, it's Central States Thermo King, which is adjacent to the 19-acre site. They relocated to that site, expanded significantly. It's a regional facility, not only to service refrigeration on trucks, but sell utility vehicles, and really facilitates a lot of the temperature controlled product that moves through the Midwest. And they have 11 other locations from Oklahoma City to Pennsylvania. I think they employ around 85 people full time, high paying jobs. Love's is probably in that same category, about 85 employees that are a mix of the C-store, the tire repair, the two restaurants that are there. And then you have Goodyear, which is at 840 East Taylor with Broadway Ford now, and they have probably in excess of 100 people there at that location between Goodyear and Broadway Ford. And we also have the 15 acres assembled next to Love's just to the south. That is in the works too, to be developed, and that will be an expansion of Broadway Ford and some of its related businesses. This 19-acre site, there's a letter of intent that's going back and forth with a manufacturer that would construct upwards of 300,000 square feet. And we've been told in the neighborhood of 400 jobs would move here, which would be significant, probably one of the largest employers down here, which would be great. So one of the reasons they looked here was the rail access that we have through terminal. We've got all the infrastructure in. We've got a no further action with the state Missouri DNR on the environmental. So it's basically ready to go. We spent a lot of money putting the infrastructure of the streets in, which are concrete. We put the detention areas in for MS, that serve the MSD stormwater for the district that will be part of the bioswales that feed around the building. So it's a great opportunity to capture somebody that's in the market that needs to move quickly. And this would be to expand and build a manufacturing operation here that's ultimately going to be a big employer. And
So, Mr. Hills, thank you for your investments and your patience and the progress you've made. Starting in 2008, progress does tend to go slow sometimes, but you've held on, and we appreciate all the investments you've made in the area.
well, thank you.
maybe you could give us a little bit more background on, because the resolution is to subordinate a loan to an individual. Could you give us a little background on what
Sure.
this transaction might look like?
Yeah, Enterprise Bank is the current lender. They've been there for quite some time. They did the TIF notes as well as the debt on the land. And we substantially reduced that. They are not interested in renewing the loan just because of just general real estate in general. They're trying to manage their portfolio, and we knew that, so we've agreed to pay that off. And we're bringing a private individual that I've sold property to before. It's really he's a lender for us. He's an interim step to us selling it to the end user. So it's at a better rate than I can get with the banks. So it helps facilitate the transaction. And it's short term. It's about time we get closed. If everything goes as planned, it'll be done less than 6 months.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Hulse?
Yes. And who is the lender?
Gentleman's name is Dan Wagner. Dan has bought buildings from me in the past. He also owns RV Wagner, which is one of the construction companies down South City.
And since they're gonna be under this proposed transaction, they'd be in a senior position to PIEA. Is RV Wagner or Mr. Wagner or any of his other entities associated with Green Street in a ownership
he is- no.
capacity?
No,
And-
this is strictly a lending transaction.
And do they have other credit relationships with
No,
Green Street or any of its affiliates?
this is the only one we will have. It's yet to be, he'll form a separate single purpose entity, that will lend the money. But Dan Wagner is the owner of that, will be the owner of that LLC.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody's, interest, that we understand everybody's interest
Sure.
in this, since we're in a second position. If we were in first position, it would, I wouldn't be wasting your time with this, but I just want to make sure that are there going to be, is there an agreement for Mr. Wagner or any of his affiliates to lend further monies to Green Street or
No.
its affiliates?
No,
And so if that were a condition in the agreement, you would have no issue with
yes,
that
that'd
term?
be true.
Okay. How much is the loan that's gonna be assumed?
It'll be approximately 2.1 million.
Okay, 2.1. And what's in the loan, in the second position, I think you've paid down to, or it's been paid down or deemed to be paid down to 500,000, is that correct?
That's on the forgivable loan, yes.
And the appraised value of the property is in excess of
5.2
2
million.
million? Okay, so it's an excess. Are there any other obligations secured by that property other than the
We just had-
Enterprise
there's-
and us?
Essentially with Enterprise, there's 2 TIF notes that were used for infrastructure. Those add up to about almost 800,000, and then the actual land loan is about 1 million too. So we're paying off through this loans from Dan Wagner, all those along with the real estate taxes.
Gotcha. And there's no one in a third position on this property?
No.
And do you know what the prospective sale price is of the?
Not yet.
The
We're
future?
getting back and forth with legal documents, so that's yet to be fully approved, but we've had a letter of intent that's gone back and forth between our attorneys, so it's in their hands now. So it's close to the appraised value.
Okay, and is there be sufficient funds for payment of any pending taxes to the city?
Yes, yes.
And would you have any issue to agreeing to that term and any agreement we'd have that the proceeds would be paid to the real estate taxes that are
Yes.
owned on that property?
We're fine with that.
Okay. Do you know what the pay range of these 400 jobs is? That sounds great, and I. didn't
Well,
know
it's,
if you had a handle on
this
that.
is an international publicly traded company, so I don't know all the wages, but I know they're significant. There's engineers, plant managers, operational people. It's a pretty sophisticated facility, so.
What, that surely sounds very positive. That's all I have right now. Any other, I'll yield it back to Chairman Spencer.
Matt, you're in your groove there. We'll get to LCRA in just a minute. Commissioner Coy and Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions or input, comments?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
No, I don't either.
Thank you. I see Alderwoman Tyus is on the line. Would you like to make any comments? And thank you for being here.
Yes, I would like to have some comments and questions, since I have been under fire for supporting a tax abatement, supporting a bill for this. And so the new board is not happy with me. Got it to second reading. That's where it's been sitting. So I'm kind of disappointed I didn't hear about this before this time, because I do want to see this project proceed, but I want to see it proceed in a way that does not hurt the school children in the city of St. Louis. And I didn't hear about this from the people at SLDC, so I'm kind of upset about that, but I did hear about it from enough people. I've been around enough that they thought I should know about this. So I got several emails from sources who've known me for 30 years. One of the things that I really came here to hear about was the taxes, because people made sure that I know that Greensmeet Street has a problem with taxes. And they sent me all the taxes that are owed on this. And they challenged my position, which has been very long before this new group came, about people paying their taxes and being careful with TIFs and tax abatement. And so as I understand it, you with this sale, subrogation, you would have enough, there would be enough money to pay. Is it going to be the current taxes just on this particular property, or is it going to be the taxes for all of the properties that they sent me? Which is 3, by the way.
Yeah, so this property will take care of their taxes, but we will also pay up all of our taxes here over the next few months. We're in the process of raising quite a bit of capital, so that will be behind us. One of the challenges has obviously been interest rates more than doubled, so it turned the world of real estate upside down. They went from under 4% to 8 to 9% interest rates. So our carry on land sites like this that are attractive to end users has more than doubled. So it created, how do we make all these payments? So, but we're going to catch everything up. We had a great run until, this last COVID thing that really upset the financial markets, but everything's going to be taken care of. We intend to be developing, extensively in the city still. We love our city. And it's unfortunate we've had unpaid taxes, but they're all going to be taken care of and paid the penalties and move forward.
Well, I do want to say that one of my members at the board is bringing forth a bill, but it does take into account that you don't have to be paid fully. It takes into account that you could just be making a payment plan. So that's what I wanted to bring to you, that if you set up a good payment plan and talk with Greg Daly's office, that if you don't have all the funds to do that, you still might have a path to doing what you want to do. Okay.
Yeah. So between the sale of this site and the 15 acres next to Love's, all this will be taken care of.
Okay. And so will the new buyers, so the new purchasers of this property, then are they going to take the place of Green Street, and will this board bill that I have, is it going to progress, or do we need to start all over? That's what I need to find out.
That's yet to be determined. They are going to explore us being the developer, but they want to control the asset, to start with, and then they'll select, the ultimate investor who will develop it and be the economic engine for getting this out in the capital markets. Or they might decide to do it all themselves. That's yet to be determined. They're certainly a very sizable company, but when we met with them, they expressed some interest in exploring having a third party develop the building, somebody else owning it and having a long-term lease and using their capital really in the operation. Because this is one of many, many facilities and, their money is really a better resource in the operating company than in the real estate.
And who is the current lender? I wrote down who the new lender is. Who is the current lender?
Enterprise Bank.
Okay. And why did you say they no longer wanted to carry the loan?
I think a lot of banks are just going through a sorting out of where their allocation of lending dollars want to be. And I think real estate is not where they want to have too much concentration. So I think it's just a business decision from them. We've had this on a couple of other lenders over the years. When 2008 showed up, that site was financed by Pulaski Bank, who was very active, but they had the same kind of situation where they wanted to get out from under real estate loans. And it's just a reflection of the market, unfortunately, that, all of us have to make decisions. And the good thing here is that we've assembled in the city up in this corridor about almost 150 acres in total. And we brought, great companies up here. We did 8,000 Hall Street, but it takes time. I mean, I've been working up here for almost 25 years. And here we are finally. I bought this in 2008 and now I'm finally selling it. It just shows you how difficult it is to find the right company to land here, but we have something that's very valuable to them. And you'll see quite a transformation here over the next year with this new tenant and what will happen next to Love's too. So as we originally started, it's a big impact to the neighborhood. When that bridge got built, it really redirected a lot of truck traffic in this direction, which has resulted in a lot of expansion of Procter & Gamble, Dial. We have great tenants up at 8,000 that we attracted, like J.B. Hunt, Werner, and a whole host of companies. And Goodyear has a corporate store here. Love's was never in an urban setting. We brought that deal together with the help of the city through SLDC and Otis Williams when he was here. And it's really helped create a destination, made that a full interchange. So it's taken time, but it's proving itself out.
Well, I actually understand on a very small basis better than you think, because my husband and I have been rehabbing since 1979 in Hyde Park. And we every time we went to see a bank, they gave us a balloon note. And so they always took the money out of it. And finally, we got to a point where I had finished law school and paid off law school loans, that we emptied a building out and said, you could have it back. And they said, oh, no. And they finally gave us a permanent. And then we got to a point where we could be our own bank. So we bought our loans out and we started lending ourselves money, which we're much nicer to ourselves than the banks were. So I'm not a real happy camper. They never said, oh, Mr. Miller, Ms. Stiles, you guys have always paid us back, so let us be good to you. So I remember that. And we've been, like I said, since 1979. So I'm not your size, but I just do know how hard it is to get projects going. So I do understand. So you said your first loan was in 2008 on this property?
That is correct.
Is that correct? And then I heard something about that the loan was paid down to $500,000 and it was always meant to be a forgivable loan. And I think that was from Mr. Orr. And I was wondering, is that was something that was in writing or just something that was understood? And if it was not in writing, why not?
I believe it is all in writing.
Yeah, it's all in writing. Excuse me. And I think a couple of the releases have actually been recorded. The loan was not paid down because they have met certain development milestones. The loan was forgiven. The loan that was provided to them, as I mentioned, came from the Empowerment Zone funding, and we specifically requested that we be allowed to use it in the form of a forgivable loan, which is what the Empowerment Zone board at that time agreed to let us do. So it has been considered a forgivable loan from day one. It's just that it's taken a little longer to reach some of these milestones due to the development challenges in this area.
Okay, so this $500,000, when it's finally forgiven, will it be forgiven as for Green Street or for this new company? Who who will get it, who will have that loan? Will it still be Green Street?
It'll be well, in this case, it's under North Riverfront Investors, which is the
North
LLC
Riverfront,
that
okay.
owns the ground.
Mhm.
Okay,
But Green Street was the developer.
okay. And I heard somebody say, and I didn't hear the answer, is there somebody with a third position on
No,
this property?
no.
No, okay. And we don't know what the sale price is going to be. And did you say there was a letter of intent to purchase the property?
There is one being negotiated, so we've got the general due diligence periods. We got some of the pricing we've countered. Now it's back in front of them to approve.
Well, whoever sent this thought I was coming to blow this up, but they will be very surprised to know that I still do want to see this project done.
Well, thank you.
And I do understand, like I said, if they knew how many things we had to do to get our projects done over the first rehab we did was in 1979. So, and we got several of them. And now the ones that people thought we were crazy about in Hyde Park is right around the corner from NGA. So they're like, oh, you're so smart now, but we were not smart when we were doing all of that. And I was hammering and nailing. My mother said, did you go to law school or did you become a carpenter? Okay, so unfortunately for them, I do still support the project. I do not like that I didn't know about it. So I want to tell you guys that it's always better to tell Sharon Tyus because she will find out. But I still do support the project and want to see it go forth. And if you're going to pay the taxes, that was my main thing, is that we don't shortchange the public school children here in the city of St. Louis.
That will occur here shortly.
Thank you, Alderwoman
All right.
Tyus. We appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here.
I appreciate it. I
Thank
don't
you.
have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's a good time to remind everyone that LCRA looked at that as an issue several years ago with non-payment of taxes, and we talked about that as a new policy. So we're getting better step by step. And thank you for your input, and thank you for making time for being here. Are there any additional questions for anybody on the panel before we move to a closed session for additional discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to move to closed session?
Is it, just to be clear, so the motion to go into closed session is to discuss negotiated contract and documents associated with the negotiated contract as provided by 610-021 sub 12, if that's still needed.
So moved.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner McBride,
Aye.
and Chair Spencer.
Aye. So we'll be
Motion.
leaving.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Sorry. Okay. I think we have everybody on the right side, and because we'll move forward with resolution 24 PIEA 496. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, McBride.
Second.
The approval requests have been properly moved and seconded. Are there any more discussions around this resolution? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Sorry.
I'm not chair, just
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Chair Spencer, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Motion passes with all of them, yes.
Thank you for going through that exercise. That was really well done. Anything on the open agenda? Hearing none, is the next scheduled board meeting is for March 26, 2024. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, McBride.
Thank you. We are closed and we can move on.